Magic the Gathering's Dungeons & Dragons set has been an exciting journey for me. I am definitely enjoying the way they are taking concepts from Dungeons & Dragons and making them appear on cardboard rectangles. And today we have some really powerful magic from the world of Dungeons & Dragons combining with a fan favorite card from Magic's past to create something that is new and really enjoyable.
Magic. History.
I'm an old wizard!
The magic historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well. We are here for another installment of Magic the Gathering Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms spoilers. This is the set that is the biggest mouthful in the world, but calling it AFR just feels weird to me. AFR sounds like a band name, or maybe, you remember America's Funniest Home Videos and they changed it to AMV? My parents loved that back in the day. I don't know if you guys have seen it now, but apparently it's still around, and it literally just seems like it's the equivalent of a terrible YouTube channel that just shows you clips with an unfunny guy giving commentary over the top of it. Absolutely nutty. But anyways, I'm getting too off on a tangent here. Let us return to what we're here to talk about. I am teleporting away from the conversation. There we go. I made it more relevant. So, we're going to be talking about Teleportation Circle. Now, this card is actually a very interesting fusion of an older card from Magic the Gathering that has been gaining popularity over the years and a really powerful concept from Dungeons & Dragons. I have always been a huge fan of magical spells. Surprise, surprise! I mean, look at how enthusiastic I am about Magic the card game. But certain types of Magic always were the most astounding type to me, and teleportation falls into that category. The ability to be able to move from one point to another point instantaneously via magic is really, really compelling. Although I do have to admit that I would probably be a gigantic ball of flesh that would just roll everywhere if teleportation magic did exist, because I would just stop walking and be like, teleport, 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 teleport. Right now, obviously, when you're dealing with the teleportation circle, there are some restrictions depending on the edition of Dungeons & Dragons that you're playing. A teleportation circle may only be able to actually transport you to other teleportation circles. In some cases, a teleportation circle may be strong enough to teleport you anywhere. I will admit as well that teleportation circle is a little bit odd conceptually when it comes to Magic the Gathering. It is a little bit bizarre how it works. So let's break down the card. The card is 1 white and 3 for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, exile up to one target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. And the flavor text says, hold on to your lunch! And that's from Bartleby the Gnome Wizard. And that's a fun little bit of flavor text where you're like, okay, you've got a gnome wizard who's strong enough to construct teleportation circles, but maybe either through a glitch of teleportation magic or just some quirk of the way things Bartleby does it. Because depending on the world you're dealing with, sometimes gnomes just have things go awry. Specific examples would be the gnomes on Kryn. Dragonlance gnomes, they constantly are having problems with whatever they're getting engaged with. They are a disaster. So I don't know if that's supposed to be specifically a little comedic tweak that basically this gnome wizard's teleportation magic isn't quite perfect, or it's just a matter of teleporting will mess with your stomach and it's better to do it on an empty stomach. And for me, little details like that genuinely add to the flavor of what we're dealing with. And flavor is a big deal for me. Obviously, if you're a regular watcher of the channel, you know that. But anyways, when it comes to the concept of teleporting in this regard as a magic card, it may not be obvious to somebody who's brand new to the game why this card is terribly appealing. You just look at it and go, wait a minute. Why would I want to exile one of my cards and then immediately have it come back? How is that advantageous to me? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. One is a really obvious reason. If you have a card that when it enters the battlefield, it triggers some kind of effect, that's really useful for you, right? Obviously. If you have a creature that says, when I come into play, gain 5 life, and you can send it away and bring it back, boom, it shows up again as a new creature, and there you go. Now it counts as another increase of life by 5. Bang, 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 up you go, right? So that is one obvious instance. Another is if your opponent has done anything negative to your creature. If they've put counters on it, like -1/-1 counters, if they've put a negative enchantment on it, or if they've targeted it out with some other ability that cares about that creature being in play. Because as soon as it gets exiled and brought back, the game treats it as a brand new object. So it allows you to avoid basically negative fates as well. Not at instant speed. If somebody's playing an instant speed destruction spell, it's not going to do anything about that. But it can remove anything else that is not an instantaneous send the creature to the graveyard style problem. So you can use it to gain extra benefit. You can use it to avoid the negatives of your opponent's interactions. And also, you can use it as a way to increase the defensive capabilities of your creatures. And by that, I mean, let's say you have a 5/5 creature out. You can just go, boom, I'm going to swing with the creature. At the end of my turn, I'm going to exile that creature. I'm going to bring it back. And boom, now it's untapped, ready to defend. So it can work almost as a pseudo-vigilance. Now, obviously, that isn't the most attractive use of it, but it is something that you can add on when basically you have a scenario where you're not getting to do your best setup, right? Where it's like, okay, I don't have the cards I want the most with this. And on top of that, this card does this not only for creatures, but artifacts as well. And unlike creatures, artifacts don't have summoning sickness unless they're creatures, right? So you can use artifacts multiple times this way. You can use an artifact that has a tap ability, exile, bring it back, and get a second tap activation out of it. So it can literally double the activations of your artifacts. And I actually have an example of a great artifact to use with this that I will show you in a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to show you the other card that goes along with this same kind of concept, the one that it's built off of. If you've been playing Magic since like the 2012, you probably already know the card that I'm going to show you next. But before we do that, let's take a look at the absolutely gorgeous artwork on this card. The teleportation circle that's depicted here looks really amazing. Clearly, it's just been activated, and you can see the lines of power that are flowing up from it. Now, it's not quite clear to me whether the creature's being teleported back or away, but because the lines of energy are moving upwards, and the being that you can see in the middle, who's clearly a humanoid, has lines that are flowing upwards, I feel like this is the departure of a teleportation as opposed to returning as a teleport and move. So I don't know if that's exactly what's going on, but it does ask a very weird question in terms of how does this work if you're a planeswalker? You're exiling the creature and bringing it back, but are you literally teleporting it out of the circle somewhere else and then just bringing it back immediately in the same location? You know what I mean? Like, you're not teleporting it halfway across the world. There would be no reason for that. So there is a little bit of flavor confusion as to why exactly you would use a teleportation circle in this way, but it also just kind of makes you think, okay, well, planeswalkers can take regular mortal magic and find new uses for it. Does this teleportation circle actually blink you fully out of existence into another realm or the blind eternities and bring you back? Like, what is that black miasma that's around the teleportation circle, right? I didn't even notice that at first. First time I looked at the artwork, I saw the glowing figure in the middle, the crazy glyphs on the ground, and went, this looks like a pretty cool teleportation circle. And then I noticed the inky, smoky darkness that's encircling it all around. So it makes me wonder if basically the planeswalker is teleporting this individual off to some location in the void and then bringing them back to get that effect. It is a very, very compelling idea. Now, like I said, this is based off of an older Magic card, and that is Conjurer's Closet. Now, they're not exactly identical, but they're very similar. First of all, Conjurer's Closet is playable in any color deck. You have to be playing white to use the teleportation circle. Interesting to think of white magic. White magic aligned with teleportation actually feels really odd. Teleportation magic feels blue, but the fact that it deals with artifacts could be blue or white. So, I mean, you've got a little bit of leeway with white, but it genuinely feels like it should be a blue enchantment, doesn't it? Anyhow, Conjurer's Closet is a 5 casting cost artifact. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. And actually, that's another thing I'd want to mention. They both are optional, but the wording is different. This one says you may exile target creature, whereas when we look at the teleportation circle, it says exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control. Now, this is different in that with teleportation circle, you're not required to choose a target, but with Conjurer's Closet, you are required to pick a target. You still get to decide whether it goes out of the game and comes back or not. Like, you're not required to actually exile the card, but because of the wording of this variation, you are required to target one of your creatures, which means if you have any creature that says, there are creatures in Magic that say, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So in that very rare case, this card would be less ideal because you'd be forced to target it, and then the game goes, do you want to send it out and bring it back? And you're like, I can't, you made me sacrifice it. But ultimately, that's not going to come up very much. I just wanted to point it out because little word changes and how they affect the rules. It's always been fascinating to me. I don't know if you guys heard, but at one point I was a magical judge. I don't know, I got a finger over here too, but at one point I was a magic judge. So paying attention to the slight variances and rulings and things like that was something that I needed to be able to do. Now, the Conjurer's Closet has a similar concept art-wise in terms of the whole, like, here's a silhouette of a figure, light glowing off of them, coming out of this it's funny that it's called a closet. It's literally just like, boop, I summon up a closet, and the other planeswalker's like, bro, what are you doing? It's like, hold on, watch this. I'm gonna send a goat in there, and you go, wow, when you close the door, and then he's like a cheesy magician, wow, when he opens the door, and it's just like, the goat's gone, and the other planeswalker's like, oh. And then he's like, wait, there's more. Woo, woo. Closes the door, pulls it back. Why did I make ghost noises? Opens the door, and the goat's back, and it's like, oh. The other planeswalker's like, oh, bravo, sir. Oh, bravo. Throwing roses at him as he bows. Oh, I could. You know, it's funny. It just makes me think of a magician's, like, contraption. Although the artwork, for some reason, actually makes me think of Doctor Who. Does this give any of you guys a Doctor Who vibe, or is that just me? I don't know. Either way, this card was originally printed back in 2012. It's been printed 4 different times, and it still has a decent amount of value in terms of people wanting it, so the secondary value on the market has been climbing over time, because this is just something that gives you essentially endless value. You can keep resetting your creatures, boom, over and over and over. And now we have a cheaper version that also ties in with artifacts. And if you want an example from Standard right now of something that would be great to combo with it, it really helps offset the downside of the Maze Mind Tome. Oh, I didn't tell you the flavor text from the Conjurer's Closet. Tomorrow wears yesterday's face. That's from Cordell the Cryptic. That is some really compelling flavor text. I always thought that was really cool. Anyhow, let us move on to talking about the Maze Mind Tome and how the Teleportation Circle actually makes this card way more useful. So Maze Mind Tome is a card where basically you're getting discounted abilities, but the trade-off is that you're limited as to how long you'll get to use them. So the Maze Mind Tome is only 2 to put out. You can tap it to basically scry for 1, but then you have to put a page counter on it. You can pay 2 and put a page counter on it and draw a card. So it's only 2 to put out, and it's 2 and tap to let you draw a card. That's very powerful. But it's offset by the fact that when there are 4 more page counters on the tome, then you have to exile it. If you do, then you gain 4 life, right? So under normal circumstances, you're going to get to do a combination of scrying and card drawing up to 4 times. After that, this card is gone. Not even to your graveyard. It's literally exiled from the game. So when you have out the Teleportation Circle, all of a sudden, you don't even have to send the Maze Mind Tome out every turn. You can literally use it 3 turns in a row and then send it out and bring it back. And as long as you never do the 4th activation before sending it off and bringing it back, it's going to reset. And that ratchets the power level of this card up considerably. It will give you a crazy amount of card advantage, either through scrying and making sure that you're getting better draws, or just straight up paying 2 mana every turn to draw a card. And then you have other turns you can still use the teleportation circle to send other cards away, or even multiple maze mind tomes. How nutty is that? And actually, this is the first time I've ever noticed that the artwork that's showing the brain on the front is actually being reflected in the background of the art as well. I was always drawn to the fact that you've got a mage holding the tome up beside his head going, look, it looks like it's my brain in there. But then in the background, you also have the sinuous lines of the brain as well. First time noticing it. And also, first time noticing that the actual brain is a maze. I just saw it as a brain, but I never saw the little entryway. That's cool. I wonder if anybody's ever blown up the artwork and tried to do the maze to see if it's actually genuinely a maze. That would be amazing. Ha! Anyways, that's all I have to say about the teleportation circle, my friends. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to all my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And I will see all of you, my friends, in the next video.